You're listening to the Womanpreneur podcast. Empowerment in business and life.
Hi, and welcome to the Womanpreneur podcast. I'm Amanda McEwen, and this is the lovely Melissa Moats over here.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. We're back again. You're back again.
We're all here together. It's another beautiful day.
It is. So what are we going to talk about today?
Today, we want to talk about accountability.
Accountability. And it's something that applies to all areas of your life, your business. Accountability is key.
Yeah. Sometimes that word can be a little scary.
It is. Well,
it's actually a lot scary.
And what really is accountability?
Accountability is follow through. Mm-hmm. And it's saying, I'm going to do something and then actually doing it.
That's the key part of it. It's great to say that you're going to do something, to set an intention, to say, get everything on paper, make a to-do list, whatever it is. That's great. That's a very good first step. But the harder step usually is the follow through. It's the actually going out and doing the thing.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you're trying to create or form a new habit.
Yeah, yes.
I think a new habit in exercise, a new habit in eating, a new habit in, work-related activities. I know for myself, a recent story that I could definitely share in the last year that I'm super duper proud of, by the way, is I lost 35 pounds because I'd put on some weight. I had pretty serious abdominal surgery with my cervical cancer. But I had a pretty big incision.
It was just the size of a bowling ball that they took out of you. Right. It was no big deal.
No big deal. Bowling ball size. It's like I can't even believe that was happening inside my body. Like, what?
It's kind of crazy.
It is kind of crazy. But so I had to have like a 17-inch vertical incision.
17-inch.
Yeah, that was something. Anyway, and needless to say, it took me a while to heal from that. And, everything that your body does is based on your core. Your core controls everything. And let me tell you, I really got new appreciation. I have new appreciation for what my core does for my body and all of its movements and so forth. But
that's why Pilates is so great.
Right?
It focuses on the core.
Hashtag Pilates. And that's one of the reasons I started going to Pilates was to strengthen my core and to get back into, good shape. But my point is, I put on some weight during my healing, my recovery after I had that surgery because number one, I was more sedentary. I was kind of sitting around a lot. And then let's just be honest, when you're sitting around healing and you have the choice between carrot sticks or amazing ice cream, I don't know about you guys and gals.
Ice cream, always ice cream. Realistically, always ice cream.
I pretty much was like, it was comfort food and it tasted great, but man, did I put on some weight. But I was struggling with getting this weight off of me because, I'd start eating better and, I would start a little workout program or a little eating program and I just wasn't fully committed, and I kept kind of starting and stopping. And I would lose like 5 pounds and then I would just kind of like go back to just kind of my bad eating habits or whatever. And I was being really inconsistent with exercising. So a friend of mine named Amanda, shout out to Amanda, another friend. I have another friend named Amanda.
There's another Amanda?
Yes. Aww. And she's awesome too. She had joined a program and posted some pictures of herself on Instagram. I was super inspired by her before and after. Got a hold of her and she said, I joined an accountability group. And I was like, what? Well, tell me about it. And she's like, it's intense, it's serious, but it works. And I had kind of gotten to that point where I was just really frustrated, like the starting and stopping. And, I realized what I needed was someone to hold me accountable. So Amanda connected me with the gals who were running the group. And basically the way this group went down was I had an accountability coach that I had to check in with every single day via text, like 5 or 6 times a day. I had to do an hour of cardio every day, 6 days a week, or 7 days a week rather. Would have been nice if it was 6, let me tell you. But 7 days a week, I had to do an hour of cardio, and then I had this really strict, eating that I had to follow, this really particular menu. And I had to take pictures of my food and prove that I was eating what I said I was eating. And I had to check in at certain times throughout the day. That was a lot of work. And I had like deadlines. I had to turn in my lunch by 2 and my dinner by 6 and all this stuff. And then I had to take a picture of my weigh-in every single morning. And if it wasn't going down, they would know that something was askew. And that was the word they used.
A great word.
She said, the head coach said, if your weight isn't going down daily, something is askew. And I was like, something like ice cream, perhaps. But anyway, I was so dedicated to this program. And quite honestly, let me tell you the kicker. The kicker was, if you missed a meal, you missed a weigh-in, you broke any of the rules, they would kick you out of the group and keep your money. And let me tell you, it was a little bit of an investment. So I was like, this is hardcore. I was actually scared of these girls who were on the other end texting me. They were probably like 19 years old or something. And they were just like, you didn't send us your lunch picture. And I was like, hold on. Here it is. Here is my piece of lettuce. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway.
It was probably kale.
Right, it was. But what's funny about it is I realized that I needed someone to seriously hold me accountable to do that hour workout every day, to eat, these certain meals at these certain times. But after 70 days, I did it for 70 days with these gals, I lost the 35 pounds, and I developed all these new habits. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I'm dedicated to my walk every day, and I'm dedicated to my new eating habits. And I felt awesome. I felt great. And then the best part is it's been over a year now, and I've kept all the weight off to the pound.
To the pound.
So
I like it. It's funny. Funny's not the right word, but it's important because a big part of anything is motivation. It's self-motivation. It can be very difficult if you're self-employed, if you have a family and a whole lot of obligations. All of these things, you sort of have to keep yourself motivated to do that thing that you're trying to do, whatever that goal is. And it's really hard to do it by yourself sometimes. It's, the reason I think all these accountability approaches have come around and are so successful is for that. It's you have that accountability buddy or whoever it is, it's a program or a friend or whatever it is. It's almost like you feel it's not just about you anymore. You don't want to let that other person down. And that can be motivating because for whatever reason, people don't seem to worry about letting themselves down so much as disappointing somebody else.
Because it becomes this thing where it's like, I think we let ourselves off the hook too easy. It's like, oh, it's okay. We'll try harder tomorrow.
Right.
It's fine. But if you are working with someone like an accountability partner in business or in your health or in your, your exercise or your diet or whatever it is, I think it's important to pick wisely. Pick an accountability partner who is not going to let you slack. Right. Someone who is not going to let you off the hook. It should be someone who scares you a little bit. I think, honestly, like another person that I reach out to and ask to hold me accountable for stuff sometimes is my big brother. And I say, hey, I'm going to do this thing. Really stay on me, remind me, bug me, call me out, give me a hard time if I don't do X. And let me tell you, you will.
It's because you have to find those things, like what it is that if you can't do it yourself or you find that you're struggling to do it yourself, what is that thing that's going to motivate you to do it? Is it the fear of somebody else yelling at you or whatever that is? Is it going, like for you talk about, exercise and all of that. For me, I can't work out at home. I mean, it sounds great in theory, maybe buy a Pilates machine, set it up in the other room, do stuff at home, maybe save myself some money. Yep. I won't do it. I will not. I will find anything else to do. I used to try, I had an online yoga subscription where it was just, there were full length workouts, so you could do it at home. I get bored. I have an elliptical that I bought, I don't know, 13 years ago, something like that. I've probably used 13 times in that time period. It's all folded up. It's in a corner. I can't move it because it's too heavy, and I don't know anybody who can come take it away for me.
Does anyone out there need an elliptical? Amanda McEwen has a beautiful, gently used,
really
very
old,
gently.
It's probably not up to par with current technology.
It probably doesn't have any.
It has a dock for an iPod, so there's that.
Ooh,
but
there's that. That's fancy.
But the thing is, and that happens. People always say, "Oh, you can find the best workout equipment used," because people buy it and they never use it.
Yeah.
I am that type of person where I need to go to a place where it's on a schedule. Mm-hmm. Pilates, I book my classes in advance. If I don't show up, they charge me a cancellation fee, and I don't want to pay $15. I'm cheap. So, it's another little
you are
motivating
financially
factor.
Responsible.
Right, and I
money.
appreciate that they do that.
Yeah.
With the exception that sometimes it encourages people to come because they're sick and then they don't want to lose their $15, so they show up anyway. I don't like that.
Right.
But it is that.
Yeah.
It's a model that works because sometimes that little bit of that I don't want to lose $15 is going to make somebody show up. Mm-hmm. There could be different things like that's not financially driven, but it seems that the financial, I said that funny, but why the financially driven
you put the
factors,
accente on the wrong syllable.
Yeah.
It's cool.
But sometimes it's just having somebody else there. And I have a client that used to make me laugh because we'd be on the phone and he would go silent. And I was like, well, are you done? He's like, well, I need to do these things, but I need you to be on the phone with me. Like, well, but what do you need me to do? He's like, I just need you to be there because if you're there, then I know you're there and then I'll do my work. Mm-hmm. It's like, so you want to pay me to sit on the phone with you? He said, yes. That's actually how my accountability packages that I offer for my coaching clients came about, because sometimes there's distractions, there are all those different things. It's very easy to lose focus. And so sometimes just having a person, maybe it's a vendor, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a family member, whoever it is. But sometimes if that's what you need to focus is just to have somebody who's going to sort of point it out if you don't do it. Sometimes that's what motivates people. I've found that I'm pretty self-motivated. I always have been. Yeah. It's not something that I struggle with too much. That being the key factor, too much.
Right.
But I was telling you about the mastermind that I joined from my friend Danny. One of the things I love about it is she gives me homework. And so, we have these calls every couple weeks, and at the end, she sends me a list of things that I have to do. And I love that because I don't have to think about it. Yeah. I don't always want to do it, but it's that, I will make sure those things get done because I know in a couple weeks I'm going to have another call with her, and I don't want to say, I didn't do it because I'm trying to take it. I am taking it seriously.
Yeah. No, I was just, as you were talking, you were triggering a few thoughts for me. And one of the things about accountability too is just, like they say, just showing up is it's more than half the battle, right? It's maybe 90% of it is just showing up, right? To do the thing or to apply yourself. And then, doing the work once you show up the follow through of doing the work is not necessarily the hard part. It's just getting yourself to go work out, getting yourself to, put in some extra time toward a goal or a new business or, it's instead of reaching for, a cheeseburger or something that, isn't healthy for you or on the program that you should be on, instead eating something that's going to help you with your goal. Some of it too is habitual. It's just breaking a bad habit. It's like sometimes we've been doing something a certain way for so long that, just creating a new habit, it's like there's so much resistance that goes on internally. And I think for me, with struggling with my weight loss and getting into shape again and building my core and doing all of that stuff was I needed to align myself with accountability coaches whom I felt were experts in their area and were going to hold me accountable. They were going to quote unquote make me do it. They were going to make me make myself do it. And that's really, really what I needed at the end of the day. I had the ability to do it, but I tried to do it by myself, and I was too forgiving, and I was too, I kept letting myself off the hook too easily. And, oh, it's okay. You know what? You had a rough day. You had a long day. You put in, 16 hours. It's fine. You should have a piece of chocolate cake. It's fine, Now, there is a time and a place for chocolate cake. But when you're trying to lose weight, it's not necessarily right now. It's called deferred gratification.
You know what you do in that case?
What do you do?
You give me your chocolate cake.
I give you your chocolate cake. Yes, I'll give it to you.
That way you don't eat it.
Yeah.
You win. I get a piece of chocolate cake. I win. It's perfect.
I can watch you eat it as long as I get to smell the cake. At least that's like torturous.
It just seems that I would feel badly.
I love me some chocolate cake in a really big way, and
I think we've mentioned chocolate cake in the majority of our episodes.
More than one
really
episode. Very much so. But I want to say too, then also accountability can be in your business life. For a lot of different things, and we can talk about that. And also too, like your finances, I mean,
that's a big one.
That's a really big one. What do you think about that? Financial accountability.
I think that people make a lot of excuses because they want the thing and it costs money, and they would rather, I always use Starbucks as the example because And you are one of them. You love coffee.
Yes,
a lot
I
of
do.
people love coffee. A lot of people love Starbucks. They love that ritual of whether it's going in the store in the morning, they know their barista, or going through the drive-through, and whatever it is, they sort of get in that habit, and they're spending $5+ a day on coffee. But then they're struggling. They don't have a savings, or they don't have this.
Yeah.
So it's fine to splurge on things when you can, but if you're not saving money, and I'm always one of my big things is if you say you can't afford to save, there's a problem. You need to address your budget, because you can't afford not to save, not to have a safety net, not to, not that you just can't live life or enjoy anything. But you have to be realistic with yourself about what you can afford, and sometimes make what feels like a sacrifice. Maybe it means that you have to make your coffee at home for a little bit. Maybe it means...
Or you go to Starbucks once a week.
Right.
Instead of every day. I just want to say, I don't really drink a lot of fancy foo-foo drinks. I just drink $1.65 coffee of the day. And it's kind of reasonable. No whipped cream.
You don't need to justify your decisions. It's
I'm
okay.
just throwing it out there. But I don't go there every day. I don't go to Starbucks every day.
But you basically have your own Starbucks at home.
I practically am a barista. It's like my hobby. I even have a Starbucks apron.
Of course you do.
I do.
I knew about the Starbucks sign in your house, but I didn't know about the apron. So
yeah, my parents flew in last night. And I was like, hey, look at my new coffee maker. And my mom and dad were like, whoa. And I was like, look at it, froths milk. It does all this stuff.
But see, there are times,
though,
so you just bought that fancy coffee maker.
I was into it.
And that's an investment. It's a one-time investment where you're spending a lot of money. However, that saves you money down the line because you're more excited to be at home. You can make it at home.
Yes.
And I find that like I invest in kitchen gadgets. I've got my Instant Pot, has been a lifesaver. I've got my Vitamix blender.
I've heard a lot about Instant Pots lately.
Love it, but part of it is, there's a cost up front.
Yeah.
But it makes it, again, I know I've talked about food prep a lot, but that's one of those huge things. And talk about being accountable when you're trying to make healthy choices. Planning and making your own meals at home in advance gives you that motivation. Maybe you have to be accountable and make yourself 3 hours on a Sunday or whenever it is to lay that all out. But then the whole rest of the week, there's no reason to stop at that drive-thru and pick up the cheeseburger, because you have a nice, healthy meal waiting for you at home that you will feel better eating.
It's all about the choices. Choices. It's like every day. I mean, I think we talked about this on one of our first episodes. I think we make like 35,000 decisions, choices a day. That's a lot. That's and I think with accountability, it's a lot about the choice making. And again, it's just who do you know? Who do you trust? Who can you reach out to help, who could be your accountability buddy?
Accountability buddy.
That's a good word.
I had to repeat that because
Isn't
that
a
just
fun
sounded
one?
exciting.
I learned
buddy.
that from my friend Carissa.
Ah,
accountability buddy. She's my
like it.
walking accountability buddy. But no matter, what it is that you're trying to be, I shouldn't say trying to be, no matter what you're working toward to create success for yourself and you're struggling with, I think it's being real with yourself. And sometimes you just can't go it alone. Sometimes you just need some support and you need somebody to kick your booty a little bit. So who can that person be for you? What do you do out there? All of our amazing viewers and listeners. See, look at how I'm getting the hang of that. People are watching and listening. Hey, what do you do? Who's your accountability partner, your accountability buddy?
Your accountability buddy.
Accountability buddy.
I feel like you have to
Everybody
say it quickly.
say it together. Accountability buddy. Accountability buddy. Who's your accountability buddy? Who could be your accountability buddy? And are you the kind of person that could be an amazing accountability partner? Would you be able to help someone, throw their excuses in the trash and replace them with cans versus can'ts? Could you be that person for someone? I think that I could.
No, you definitely could. It's
I'm going to Google something while you're talking. Go ahead.
When we're talking about business, there is a structure that happens. I'm sorry, I got distracted because there's this discussion going on.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
It is okay. While you Google, when you're setting your rates in business, there is there's a psychology that comes into play that has a lot to do with accountability, because sometimes if you set, especially if you're in sort of a coaching situation or you're offering a service, it's a one-on-one kind of thing. If your prices are too low, everybody wastes their time because people don't show up. So, I have a friend that was a personal trainer and she talks about this a lot, where she was trying to offer competitive rates and then people just wouldn't show up, and she would get really frustrated, or she'd put together these meal plans, do all these things, and she would get people to sign up, but they wouldn't show up. And then she had a mentor who just said, well, you need to double your prices. And she was like, well, but if I'm not getting clients at this lower price, how am I going to double it? But she doubled it. And then suddenly she was getting working, people who were showing up and they were doing the work because now there was something at stake for them. So a lot of times that comes into play that, okay, I need to spend the money to make sure that I'm going to do it. And I found that in my own business practices also, especially when I started offering the coaching and the business consulting, because sometimes people would be like, I just want an hour. And we would do an hour session and it'd be great. And they learned some things, but it was just an hour. Yeah. And then it said, okay, but if you really want to transform your situation, you need to commit to 3 months. And that can be really scary for people. That's a lot of money to spend for a short period of time. Yeah. However, the ones who have committed to it, they're all in. And it's even like on the opposite with my friend Danny, that I'm doing this with her. I feel that the investment is there. I know I need to do at least listen to everything that she advises, try all the things, because I spent money to invest in it. And I that makes me accountable. Sometimes for people, if it's, $10, $20, they don't care if they lose it.
But if it's a bigger investment,
if somebody's giving you $1,000 or $3,000, it's very scary, but they're going to stick with it because they're not going to let that go to waste.
Totally. Amanda.
Yes.
We match our cow today.
We match our cow. So what that means, for those of you who are listening, is on our desk, we have a purple cow.
Yes, and you're wearing purple horizontal stripes.
Yep.
And I'm wearing purple vertical stripes. We did not plan our purpleness today.
We did not plan our purpleness.
But we are perfectly purple.
Perfectly
in alignment with our purple cow. What I looked up, I just had to mention it. I was looking at you
with our cow
and with our purpleness. You were talking. I was totally listening to you, but I was noticing. I was like, "Look at your purple and look at my purple."
She looks at me and she thinks cow.
No,
That's what I'm hearing.
No,
It's okay.
I thought purple when I looked at you. But everything Amanda McEwen is so smart. She had a lot of really important things to say.
I thought you were going to say I was snarky because I am snarky.
You were also snarky. You were smart. I was trying to do a word merge, but it didn't work out. It was a mashup that failed. All right. So accountability. I looked up the actual definition of the word accountability from the World Wide Web. On the World Wide Web, it says that it is the fact or condition of being accountable. Responsibility. Ooh, that's a big word. And answerability, obedience. Ooh, being obedient to yourself.
But it's all of that is to yourself.
To yourself.
And then, I mean, you can be accountable. Really, you can't be. Can you be accountable for somebody else? I don't really think so.
Yeah, it's you know what it is. I think the whole idea, with having an accountability partner is if you're not gonna be accountable to yourself and you feel like you'll be more accountable to someone else, that's your own way of saying, look, to yourself, hey self, I heart you. I'm going to do this for you, but I have to do this for you via the way of this other thing. So I have to be accountable to them to be accountable to me.
Is this that inner fairy voice that you talked about last
this is
episode?
How I level with myself. I'm like, hey self, this is what's going on. Okay. You might think that you're sneak attacking yourself. Well, you are, because you think you're going to do sneak attack. It's like, I won't do this for me, but I'll give you an example. I have some really great students who are very talented, who the more they audition, the more they book. And they say to me, Melissa Moats, I wish I was booking more voiceover work. And I say, you know what you need to do? You just need to be more consistent with your auditioning. And they say, I know, and I tell myself that every single day, but I'm just not doing it. And I say, what I would like is I'm gonna make a deal with you. I want you to be accountable to me. I want you to check in with me every night and tell me how many auditions you did, what you did, but I may occasionally ask you for proof. I might say, I'm going to go log into your such and such account and see how many emails you submitted, or I might say, prove it to me by sending me all the auditions that you did today. I want to listen to them. But they never know when I'm going to actually do that, right? Yeah. But what I notice is a lot of my students will actually start being extremely consistent with their auditioning. And then in turn, they start booking a lot more work because they feel like they owe it to me, right? I know they don't owe it to me, but I know that if they feel that way in their heart, like, oh, I don't want to let Melissa down, I don't want to let my coach down, she's cheering for me and supporting me, that they're doing this for themselves at the end of the day. But I know that, and I'm totally cheering for them, and I'm just trying to give them some support. So that's my way of doing a little accountability. But I also don't let them give me too many excuses. I have a couple of my students who say, oh, well, but I had to go to the bank today. Really? Okay. Well, if you had to go to the bank today, you should have said, I make deals with myself. That's another thing I do with my auditioning and stuff. I go, you know what? I need to do this, and I also want to do that. But before I will do these two things, I must complete X amount of auditions or X amount of admin work or something that I don't want to do. So I make deals with myself, and that really helps me sometimes. Being an entrepreneur, working from home, being a business owner, sometimes we literally have to make little deals with ourselves to get through the day.
It's like you have to earn the fun stuff.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a boss or somebody telling you, and it's really, but you should be most accountable to yourself because, I mean, it's your business. The better you do, the better you do.
Absolutely. But it's interesting though how there are times that you can get caught up in the cycle of going, I just need, whatever. But I just have to say that I really feel a responsibility to my students, and if they need me to be their accountability buddy, I want to be.
And if you don't necessarily have an accountability buddy, which happens. Sometimes you just don't have the people who are going to let you know when you're not doing well. You know, there's people, sometimes it's hard to find somebody that's really going to be the proper level of accountability that you need. So sometimes you do have to rely on yourself to be accountable to yourself.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you were talking about making deals with yourself. I set myself deadlines. I know that they're not real. There's nobody else saying you need to do this by such and such a time. I do that for myself because it's again in my head, I need to get this done by that time. And it just keeps the motivation there a little bit more to think, like you said, sometimes giving yourself a reward. It's like, okay, you know, if it's, you know, I have to create social media content or something that I don't love doing. It's like, okay, but if you get X amount of posts done now, you know, you can go do this thing. And it's bargaining. It definitely is bargaining with yourself, but it's not really tricking, but you just have to set a foundation, sort of give yourself structure. And I know that's the thing that so many people hate. They don't want routine. They don't want structure. I got into business for myself, so I didn't have all those things, but you still need some of it, because if you're just kind of going where the wind takes you, that's great for some things, but you really are only going to focus on the things that you love doing, and all that other stuff. And a lot of what I deal with in business is people who pushed away all that stuff, the bookkeeping, the taxes and licenses and all the paperwork that everyone hates.
She just pointed at me when she said paperwork. I don't know why.
Because you hate it. And I know that. Everybody knows that. But
I know I do.
You know, I sort of take them when they've let something go, sometimes for months, sometimes for years. I've worked with people that come to me and they're several years in and they've put a few things in their bookkeeping software and they don't know how much money they're making. They don't know how much money they're spending because it's not fun. And then sometimes it's that you need to talk to somebody who's going to help shift your perspective of it, that maybe this isn't the fun part, but why is it important? And it's important because if you don't know your financial situation, you don't know what you have coming in. And when you're self-employed, it's different. Budgeting is way different because you don't have a set salary where you're saying, okay, I'm making this much, so here's how I can allocate it. You have to start with, I need to make at least this much to cover my baseline, and then figure out, okay, but if I make more than that, then what can I get? And you sort of have to do it in the reverse. And that can be really overwhelming for people because business fluctuates. You can go from having a really busy, really fruitful month to nothing at all.
Crickets chirping.
Yeah. And you have to be prepared for both because you don't have that regular salary coming in. Like it's, you know.
Well, one thing too that I want to say, just you triggered a thought for me, is I always say, like with my voiceover students, with all things being equal, people who have really trained and honed their craft and have really good skills, it's like you'll get out of it what you're willing to put into it. And if you're super inconsistent at anything that you're doing, you're going to get an inconsistent result. But if you are consistent in what you're doing, you will create a consistent result. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like if you're eating healthy and you're exercising and you're doing what you need to be doing, you're going to, have your body is going to feel good. It's going to perform better. If you're trying to lose the weight, that's just going to happen as a result of that consistent, doing, what you need to do. For me, with my business mindset, with running the voice actor studio, mentoring people, and voice acting, I feel a huge level of responsibility to myself and a huge amount of responsibility to my students. I feel invested in every single one of them. I want to see them all do really, really well. And I know you feel very invested in the clients and people that you work with too. And it's one of those things where it's like every single day, I hold myself accountable for so many things. I hold myself accountable for, doing a great job in all my performance with all of my voiceover clients. I hold myself accountable to audition every single day. I hold myself accountable to interact with my students. I'm writing emails all the time to, the voice actors who attend workshops at the studio, to just give out good nuggets and also inspiration and guidance. And I literally, it's part of of it is it's a huge responsibility that I feel to myself. And I pride myself on, if I tell somebody that I'm going to do something, I want to do it. And I want to do it really well and with everything that I've got. So it's interesting that I'll let myself off the hook on certain things. Like for me, it was just my exercise and my diet. That was just the thing that I couldn't get a grip on it. It was like, man, I am so like, just on top of my stuff, in so many other areas of my life. But there might be that one weak area, that one thing that you just can't, get a handle on. It's okay. It's okay. We can't all be awesome at every single aspect of our lives. I mean, some people, I guess, can be, but I mean, I don't know anybody who doesn't have a weak spot. Right. But it comes back to, you were talking about you being a solution, for so many people. I think if you're not amazing at it, that's another thing. Find people who are amazing at it, who can help support you and stuff, so you can be awesome at the things that you want to be awesome at. It's a little side note.
You said something about that responsibility and your word, and that's what triggered, because I always say that my biggest commodity is my word. So if I say that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, because without that, there's no trust. Like your word becomes meaningless, and that's so important to me. That and sometimes things come up. You have to be forgiving in that way. But there are people who are just sort of flaky, but in general, make plans with somebody and then back out, just because they don't feel like it. I understand the temptation. There are times when I don't want to go out. I would rather just stay home.
You show up to every party.
If I say that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And I think because I just have that accountability to the people that are relying on me, and that whether it's friends, that's family, that's clients, whatever it is. And especially in the business world, there's in production, the thing that happens sometimes is you might be booked on a job and then another job comes up, and there are people who are like, oh, well, this job pays more, so I'm going to cancel on the first job that I was booked for. I don't do that, because I feel like if I gave you my word, I'm going to be there. Doesn't mean I'm not going to ask if there's a possibility to be flexible, but if there's not, you got my word first, I'm going to turn down this other job. And that's how I built the loyalty with some of my clients, because they know,
trust,
like maybe I
huge.
turned down a 3-day high paying job to do their half-day project, but they know that they can count on me, which I just find to me
so
is very important.
And when you're a business owner, trust is everything, and your word is everything, and follow through. It's kind of like, I'm paraphrasing a quote. I love quotes, but it has to do with like, you can work for an entire lifetime to build someone's trust, and in just a moment you can, damage that, or it can be lost forever. But I think for me too, both of us, I know both of us are that way. I mean, we're both very much, we stick to what we say we're going to do. So, do what you say you're going to do and follow through for sure. Don't be flaky. I mean, that's definitely a way to, don't be flaky. Hashtag don't be flaky. That's a way to just not get, repeat clients in your world. And then I also say, trust yourself. I trust myself fully on everything that I do, except if chocolate cake is involved. I have zero.
I already solved that for you. You just give it to me.
I know.
It's a win-win.
But, it's a good thing.
I just wanted to, I have one more point, and
Please.
then I'll
I want to
be
hear
quiet.
it.
But
I want to hear it.
You said something that made me think about it. When we're talking about habits and consistency, I think it's important to remember that it's really hard in the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
That's the worst it's ever going to be. If you have not exercised in 2 years and you start a workout plan, that first day, not going to be fun. You're going to feel it. You're going to feel it for probably days afterwards. You got to push through it. If you're starting a new diet, you might feel hungry, or you might, there's a lot of mental connection to food that, makes you think that you want to eat things even if you're not hungry. It's all very difficult because you're changing. You're used to one way. Now suddenly you're doing something different, and it's confusing internally and externally. But if you stay with it, you develop those new habits, you're consistent with it, it doesn't have to, it gets easy. It's just like if you're practicing whatever it is, the first time you play an instrument, chances are it's not great. There's some, squealing sounds or some screeching or just some bad chords being hit.
It's going to get ugly before it gets better.
If you play a little bit every day, you get better. And then you're not really going to remember how hard it was in the beginning because that doesn't matter anymore.
It's funny how after we do become strong at something, we do forget about how messy things were in the very beginning.
As long as you stay consistent with it, because, and even that means if you mess up one day, it doesn't mean you just give up entirely. Just jump right back in the next day.
And here's
Forgive
another,
yourself for it.
Right.
And keep going. But then, it's when you just give up and say, oh, I just can't do it. Then the next time you're ready to make a change, you have to start back at square one when it was so hard.
Here's another thing too, for with accountability, with getting started with something new or something that is a struggle for you. One of my little tricks, mind games that I do with myself is I'm just not in the mood to work out today, or I don't feel like going for a hour-long walk. I'll say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go for a 10-minute walk. I'm just going to get started. I'm just going to go do this for a little bit. And then I know that just getting out the door is the hard part. And once I go, well, I've already walked 10 minutes. Let me just walk 10 more. And then, but then before I know it, I'm doing the thing that I needed to do. And so, if it's something like, work related, forcing yourself to get accountable with, I don't know what would be a good example. I'm trying to think of something for me, it would be sitting down and writing the descriptions of our podcast. Hey, here's me. This is what I did the other day. Because Amanda and I sharing the Womanpreneur podcast responsibilities. She's like, do you want to write the descriptions so the fine people of the world who are going to interact with us know what these episodes are about? And I said, yes, I will write them. And then I started to go, we've already done so many episodes. I got to write all these things. And I thought, you know what, Melissa Moats, you are going to just write one. You are going to do a fine job. This is my internal dialogue.
Well, because it was either that or you could track our expenses. Yeah. And I didn't think you wanted to do that. So
I was definitely not going to track our expenses. So as I said, I was like, I will happily write these. But when you look at the big thing, it gets a little overwhelming. So I just started with one. And guess what? I wrote 3.
There you go.
Hey. I want to know what the positivity ball has to say. PAB. Positive affirmation ball. I almost couldn't say affirmation.
I don't know. What question are you asking it today?
PAB.
I love that she's
my sweet
You've
friend.
taken on PAB.
Aw, PAB. Such a swell PAB. I want to know, did we express ourselves well today talking about accountability? Did it connect? Did some good nuggets come out? Brilliant idea.
Oh, see? I like this thing.
This thing is...
But we're only going to be able to keep it around for so long before we're going to run out of affirmations.
No,
we don't want to get too repetitive. What about when we're in episode 83? Because we've already been accountable and we did the first one. And then we've done the second one and the third one.
The yes or no magic 8 ball. Is it amazing? How do you feel, Pab, about the fact that Amanda and I both wore purple today? What's the thought about that? Look on the bright side.
Well, not so bright, but that's okay. While you're shaking this ball over here, I just want to remind everybody to check out our website at the womanpreneurpodcast.com. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. And we've actually started a Facebook group, so it's the Womanpreneur Podcast community. That's where, people are discussing our episodes, our topics.
Yeah.
We really want your feedback. The discussions are becoming very important for us because we want to know what your thoughts are,
what
about
you need,
what we're talking about, what you'd like us to talk about.
Yeah.
How are you being accountable? How do you help other people become accountable?
Yep.
Let us know.
We want to keep the conversations going, and we want to know your thoughts. We want to know your amazing tips and things that you're doing that work for you. We're just kind of casually sharing things that work for us and just trying to put some goodness and some sparkles out in the world.
Some sparkles out in the world.
Yeah.
Melissa Moat's sparkles they are magical.
They're
Sometimes
powerful.
she tells me, I'm sending sparkles out there for you, and then great things happen. So
My sparkles they're
But-
seriously no joke.
she's a pretty good accountability buddy. I just
I am
wanted to see how
solid.
fast I could say accountability buddy.
Accountability buddy.
Is good. So I'm done.
Let's say it together in unison. 1, 2, 3.
Accountability
buddy. That was fun right there.
Good
We're
fun.
living large.
Okay.
So I just want to say, don't forget, find somebody who could be a great partner for you if you need one. And I always like to try to.
I know.
I like to do a wrap up at the end.
I like
you know,
to do a wrap up. I just decide I'm done, and then I stop talking and put it all on you.
Well, it's like this. I talk to my brother on the phone every day. My older brother, we're really close. We talk for like good 15, 20 minutes. And then at the end, one of us kicks off the wrap up. It's basically where we just kind of wrap up all the ideas. We kind of just recap what we said. I don't know why we both feel like this need.
so formal
It's
for a
real
conversation.
formal. We do it every single time we talk.
When my brother and I are texting, one of us just stops, and that's how the
we don't-
conversation ends.
My brother and I, we need this like major resolve. And so he's like, well, it was really nice talking to you today. I'm glad you had a really good day. Yeah, I had fun at the rodeo. He went to a rodeo. He lives in Austin. And I'm like, cool. He's like, hope you have a great class tonight. Hope we'll talk to you tomorrow. It's like a really good, proper wrap up.
I'm more just cut it off. We're done. Bye.
I don't feel like that's right.
See? You can't help it. You will keep talking until you feel like you've hit that point of closure.
All right, let me show you how we do it. So we're super happy that you
This is a podcast that will never end. But you're still with us. So
hold on, I'm going
thanks
to do
for
a
that.
proper wrap
Okay.
up.
I'm going to be quiet and stop
I'm
laughing.
super happy that you tuned in today. We hope that you feel great about accountability. And peace out. Bye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for tuning into the Womanpreneur podcast. Until next time, you've got this.